friend crush. I'm your host, Amber Akilla. This is my podcast where I talk about stuff and things, cute, chaotic, and critical thinking. I'm a DJ slash creative consultant and I don't know, a bunch of other stuff, I guess. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, SoundCloud at Amber Akilla. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. Wherever you are, may the light shine from within you if it is not shining around you. And I hope everyone's doing their best to do their best. I mean, yeah, another day, another dollar, another year, another pandemic. What can I say? I'm doing not too bad at the time of recording. It's getting hot. I might overheat while I record this. But yeah, stay hydrated as always. And today's topic, oh my God, I love this topic so much. I could talk about it forever, and not in like a masochistic self-harm way, but in a like an essential to the human experience, to just like being able to learn and level up in life, I think. And that is breakups, training for a breakup, aka how to get through a breakup, and just any like major transition phase in your life, I think. Based on my experience, obviously, and you know, the experiences of people around me and a lot of trial and error. I feel like I try my best to embrace change. You know, everything is changing all the time, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And I think that being able to embrace and move with change rather than constantly resist it is how we are able to learn and grow. And there's a lot of different things that I think get in the way of this and get in the way of us being able to embrace change. I think human nature naturally wants to feel safe, wants to do things that are familiar, because you know what's familiar to you is what is going to feel safe on a subjective level. Sometimes things that are harmful to us are familiar, and then we don't even realize that we're kind of like subconsciously associating that with safety because of the predictability of the harm in some ways. But I think, you know, more and more I understand the importance of trying to like elevate our consciousness, how we can embrace the lessons that we can learn from periods that objectively would be distressing, and subjectively, obviously. But, you know, the longer that I've been alive, the more I realize that you really don't learn without challenges. And even though we want things to be easy because it makes things happy and fun, you don't want to be high for too long. You know what I mean? Like, we live in a universe of polarities and duality. You can't appreciate what's good unless you also know what's bad. And even if you consistently pursue what you think is good, eventually you get tired of it and you need something to contrast it in order to feel satisfaction. So I think a lot of the times we're like at war with ourselves in wanting to do what's fun and what feels good, and then ignoring what would actually be best for us. And whenever you're going through a breakup or a big transition phase, what's best for you is learning how to move through it, not resist it. Because the more you resist it, the more it compounds, the bigger the problem actually becomes. And then not addressing it means it will come up in your life in other ways and in more unpredictable ways, when you're no longer like connected to your awareness and not being intentional with how you respond to things. If you're just being reactive, if you're just being compulsive, then it can be a slippery slope, you know? So breakups are fucked. They can be extremely fucked. But I think there's so much that we can learn from ourselves, so many ways that we can grow from these experiences. At least for me personally, I would never want to re-experience any of the breakups that I've been through, but I can totally appreciate how important they were to contributing to who I am today, and even though I naturally don't want to have to go through another breakup, I know that I will have to, or I will have to face different kinds of challenges in the future. So this is my like current sort of approach that I would take, and I feel like in the future I'd probably, with more experience, have more ideas. There are lots of things that I think you can do to help yourself move through these periods with like just a little more intention and grace. So I have a list because I'm trying to take this more seriously now that I know people actually listen to the podcast. Because I kind of record things like under the assumption that no one's listening, but then I receive messages, which I'm really grateful for, of people telling me they've listened to certain episodes and these different ideas resonated with them. So I love to see it. So please always reach out to me if something resonates with you, because it encourages me to continue. Okay, so I'm trying to approach this in like a gender neutral kind of way, because obviously breakups and transition periods affect everybody of all genders, of all ages. And this is kind of like under the assumption that you are sad or devastated about what's happening. If you've had like an amicable breakup, maybe this doesn't apply to you, but you know, still things that you can keep in mind, and by no means an exhaustive list either. And yeah, like not just for romantic breakups, maybe a friend breakup, maybe you moving cities, maybe you quit like a job that was a really big part of your identity. So just kind of like existential crisis vibes. Okay, let's start. So first things first is that it is very important to feel your feelings. Your feelings are part of the like physiological response in your body to different stimulus. And when you're sad, you know, you might feel it in your chest, you might feel it in your arms, you might feel it in the back of your head or on your neck. Like try to identify where in your body you're feeling things, and take like deep breaths when you're feeling overwhelmed. And also journal / thought dumping. I don't care how you do it, whether you do it in your phone, whether you do it in a notebook. I used to do it in my phone. Now I do it in a notebook, and I try to do thought dumps every morning. Haven't really had any like major transition periods over the last like year and a half. It was at its worst when I was like first stuck in Australia. And then I kind of developed more of these habits that have managed to sustain me through being stuck here. But basically the way that I understand it is that your feelings are in your body and your thoughts are in your head. And they kind of have this like interrelated sort of relationship. So you might have a feeling that then you rationalize in your head, you identify using your brain, but then you might have thoughts that trigger a feeling. So I might be in the middle of a breakup and having a conversation with someone I'm breaking up with, and then this creates feelings in my body, overwhelming feelings. But then I might be in a state of homeostasis at a later point when I'm back at my equilibrium and ruminating or thinking about the breakup, thinking about my ex, and then that triggers feelings in the body. And essentially the response in your body usually only lasts about 90 seconds, like the physiological response, the feelings. And then the way that we suffer is when we mentally connect with that feeling and we write a story about it. Like so much of the human experience is based on narrative and storytelling, whether it's storytelling to each other or storytelling to ourselves. And when we let our thoughts kind of run away from us and have a life of their own, that's how we can really create suffering in our lives. So journaling is really helpful because I feel like it pulls those thoughts out of your head instead of allowing them to just swirl around. And I used to be really skeptical about journaling, especially on a regular basis. I used to just kind of do thought dumps when I was feeling really overwhelmed by something. But now I see so much benefit in being able to have a regular practice, and especially when things are really intense, being able to just scribble out everything that you're thinking and feeling onto paper, I think can be really cathartic. And do it under the assumption that nobody else is going to read it. And you might not even read it ever again either. Like, rarely do I ever read over anything I've written in a journal, but just get it out there, you know, like the same way that you need to throw out trash in your room in order to maintain like physical peace, you also need to throw out trash from your mind to maintain mental peace. So journaling is so important. Feeling your feelings. The more we try to avoid feeling, the more tension can build up in our bodies. So this follows into another tool, I guess, which is scheduling being emo. My therapist told me that if I was going through a hard time and, you know, in sort of like a depressive mode, that it's better to schedule time, say like, okay, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to just cry and sob, and then after the 20 minutes I need to get up and do something else. Or maybe it's like I'm going to give myself an hour to just wallow in my own despair, and then after an hour I need to get up and go for a walk or something. So let yourself really, like, I don't know, exert the energy from your body, instead of holding it in and feeling like you're constantly holding back tears or feeling like you have to put on a brave face. You can put on a brave face, but it's going to be easier to put on a brave face when you've really given yourself the space to just like fully let go of any pressure to maintain, like, you know, a sense of poise. There's no reason why you need to be poised all the time or stoic all the time. And I think stoicism comes from your ability to actually process your emotions in healthy ways, not repress your emotions. And I think that sometimes men especially have trouble with this. They think that it's weak to show emotion, but your strength comes from your ability to process your emotions healthily and not like take your own pain out on other people, whether you're conscious of it or not. So yes, feel your feelings, schedule being emo, especially when you have a lot of stuff going on, you know, like people still have to work, you still have responsibilities, but you might be going through a really tough period. So give yourself time to yourself to just wallow if you need to. Next point, no essay texts. Maybe I should do a whole separate episode on just why essay texts should not be sent under any circumstances, in terms of like trying to explain how you feel to someone, trying to get someone to see your point of view, especially someone that you've been intimate with and who you loved and who loved you and who you were able to hold your mutual interests like in each other's priorities, and now you're not. It's like, you know that they're capable of doing that, or that you are capable of doing that, and now it's just that it's not compatible anymore. You're just not able to. So essay texts usually are like the end of the line when it comes to trying to communicate with someone. You've already tried to have conversations in person. You've already tried to talk over the phone. You've already tried all these other ways to get through to them, and now you're at your wit's end and you think that sending an essay text is going to help. It's just not, babes. It's not. And when you've gotten to that point, I feel like the other person has already shown how little they care, or how they no longer have the ability to hold space for you or the way that you feel. Why further confirm that? You know, like, rarely will you ever get the answer that you want from sending an essay text. If anything, people will just agree with you for the sake of agreeing with you and hoping that you don't send another one. So please don't send essay texts. Please journal. Write it down somewhere else. Write it like a letter to them that you never send. It's just not worth sending essay texts, and especially in terms of just like maintaining your dignity when you feel like you've lost something in your life, there's like a hole. Don't throw your dignity down into that too, you know. Just sleep on it if you really want to send an essay text. I've never felt better about myself after sending an essay text in the past, and I don't ever want to send one again. Write it in the journal, sleep on it. If you need to have the last word for whatever reason, draft like 2 sentences max, make it effective, sweet and short and to the point, and then end it there. There's no reason why you need to drag on this communication. Like, just focus on yourself. Focus on yourself, reconnecting with yourself, understanding your feelings, letting go of your negative thought patterns, becoming aware of them. Don't try to get this person that is causing pain in your life to do something about that. You know, they can't, and they probably have their own shit going on too. No essay texts. If you have the urge to write essay texts, write it in your notes app, write it in a journal. Do not send. You can show your friend maybe, and they can hype you up about it, but don't send it. Don't send. Next point. Okay, so once you've processed a lot of the more overwhelming immediate feelings, I think you have awareness of your feelings versus your thoughts. And when you're reflecting, focus on behavior and circumstances that justify the breakup, justify this transition period, and not like the nice, happy moments in the past that cause you to second guess your decision. Because you're at this point for a reason, and regardless of how long it lasts or what happens next, you need to process it before you do the next thing. Otherwise, it's going to be like leftover things getting in the way. You're never truly going to be moved on. So I think that it's important to focus on like the disrespect that you experienced, the betrayal, the self-betrayal, maybe the incompatibility in terms of where you're at in life with this other person, or incompatibility of you and a specific set of circumstances. Allow that to reinforce why this is happening. You need to let go of something in order to move forward into the next thing, in order to see and live out your potential. Okay, you can't hold on to one thing forever. There is nothing in your life that you can rationally hold on to other than yourself, other than like your inner child or whatever. And it's important to sort of like keep zooming out your perspective, focusing on like, what do you want for yourself? I always end up in a place where I'm like, I just want to be happy, and I just want to have fun. And I want to be able to connect healthily with other people so that we can be happy and have fun together. You know, that's my end goal. What is your end goal? Is your end goal to just suffer and be sad forever? Not me. I'm sad and emotional, but I'm not trying to just live in a constant state of being emo. That comes with the pursuit of my happiness. It's not the thing that defines the experience of my life itself. So remembering that it's always darkest before the dawn, okay? That's just how life is. You can't be high forever. You just can't. So remembering that, because you wouldn't need to break up if it wasn't broken, right? If everything was fine and you remember when it was fine, there wouldn't be any need for this pain, for this contrasting experience. And I think that sometimes, you know, maybe the amount of time that we spent in pain is still relatively small in comparison to the time that we spent that was good together. But especially in terms of romantic relationships and friendships, it's like, it takes time to really know someone. It takes time to really know yourself even. So this idea that someone's good behavior can completely define their character or their personality is naive, because everybody has light and dark parts to them and varying degrees of integration between the two. So some people, it takes a while to see their dark side come about and to see how little like management and integration of it they have. You know, everyone has a dark side or a shadow side, but different people have varying ability in terms of how they manage it, how they're aware of it, and how it affects their relationships. And even with that being said, you could be two of the most integrated people on the planet, but at some point your paths might diverge and you're no longer on your journey together, and that's just life. So important to just kind of zoom out and remember that, you know, this isn't the only thing you have in your life, or this isn't the only thing that you're here to experience. And you just have to let go if you want to experience the next thing. You can't be weighed down by these feelings and by this rumination. So focus on behaviors and circumstances that justify the breakup. You can appreciate nice moments, but don't allow them to take you like, you know, one step forward, two steps back. And I think radical acceptance is so important at all times, and especially when we're having a hard time. It's like you need to accept that this is happening. And acceptance doesn't mean that it feels good. It doesn't mean that anything that's fucked up is justified. It just means that if you don't acknowledge and accept the circumstances and the situation that you're in, your ability to come up with a sustainable solution to move through it is going to be minimized. Oh my goodness, can you hear the crow in the background? I apologize. Okay, next point. If you have been betrayed and there is an urge to seek revenge, again, ask yourself if it is worth exerting any more energy over this than you need to. You know, like first you have to focus on reconnecting with yourself. That's the priority, in my opinion. And then anything else is like extra work for you. So you can, by all means, seek revenge if you so wish. It is not something that I personally would encourage, but you can also recognize like your desire to do so, right? I think people underestimate how powerful your apathy is. You know, the person who cares the least usually wins. The less affected you are, the more painful it is for people to see you move on from them. You know what I mean? Like if you continue to engage with this person or beg for attention from them or kind of like loiter and lurk and orbit around their life, they will either get really annoyed and it will further justify the breakup, or they will get some kind of ego boost out of it and be like, oh, they're not over me, I've won. So yeah, remember when you're like thinking in terms of your ego and your desire to quote unquote win in a situation in a way that seems tangible and immediate, which could be through a number of different ways. I'm not going to make a list because I don't want to encourage revenge. But you can be aware of your urge to do those things and not act on them, okay? Focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. Instead of acting on the urge to seek revenge, start, you know, doing some positive affirmations for yourself. Meditate, develop an awareness of your thoughts. Remind yourself that this is temporary. Remind yourself that making impulsive decisions now is going to make you feel like a fool later. You know, what's going to feel good now might not be great for you long term. And just like try to avoid dragging third parties into your mess. Like it's really tempting to do so when you're raging, when you're overwhelmed, when, you know, somebody who's betrayed you is still seen as good in other people's eyes. But I feel that karma is a lot of people's personality. They just don't even realize it. People are doomed to make the same mistakes over and over again unless they put in the effort to develop an awareness around their patterns of behavior. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. So I think that the idea, it's like it's only a matter of time until other people figure out that they suck as much as they do. And your ability to stay unbothered is what gives you power and dignity in this situation, because it's very easy to write people off as crazy when they're not acting from a place of intention, when they're being compulsive, when they are seeking revenge and this illusion of justice from like outside of them. And I think a lot of the times for me, the urge to seek revenge or the urge to badmouth somebody after I feel that I've been betrayed comes from frustration that I feel towards myself and the way that I betrayed myself. You know, it doesn't mean that it's not always about like right and wrong, just that we have to recognize our own responsibility in the way that things go. Even if we weren't the one to do the betrayal, there's still responsibility that we can take when we look back and learn for next time. You know, don't beat yourself up that you didn't know better. Just make a mental note and learn from the experience instead of making the same mistake again. Okay, next point, no contact rule. So I find that this can be really hard for people, especially, you know, if there's still lingering feelings of affection and love towards someone that you're breaking up with, or people who don't want to be seen as the bad guy will maintain channels of communication with somebody that they've hurt or someone they're breaking up with so that, I don't know, they can make themselves feel better about the situation and not take responsibility in the role they play in someone else's pain. It doesn't mean that you're responsible for it, because there's only so much you can take responsibility for. But like I've mentioned before, we need to be able to accept when we're the villain in someone else's story. And we also need to accept that someone that we loved is the villain in our story too. And that can be really hard to come to terms with, especially when we might have put someone on a pedestal, when we might have imagined like a future with them. So the no contact rule is essential in being able to heal your wounds, okay? Imagine you have a wound on your body. You aren't supposed to like pick at your scabs and continue to irritate it if you want it to heal properly. No contact rule. So you could, if you wanted to, pick at your scabs and like keep irritating a wound. It might still heal, but it would take much longer and it would be much more uncomfortable than if you just endured the short-term discomfort and allowed it to heal on its own. And, you know, you maintained healthy hygiene around the wound and, you know, let time pass for it to heal. So I think the same thing applies to your mental, spiritual, emotional wounds. You need no contact. You need to let it heal, and you need to create a healthy environment around it to ensure that it heals properly. The more you irritate it, the more you seek contact with the person that's hurt you or that triggers you, the harder it will be. You know, like if I cut myself, I don't continue to get a knife and keep cutting in the same place when I'm trying to get it to heal. The same way that if I've broken up with somebody, I'm not going to keep seeking them to heal the wound that they've caused or to take any responsibility for it. You know what I mean? It's hard, okay, no contact rule. And there are different ways to go about it, whether it's unfollowing or blocking, up to you, what you want to do. I don't use the block button that often, personally. I'm more of a remove follower kind of gal, if I need to, or just unfollow. Remove their name from their contact in your phone if you don't want to fully block or delete. And yeah, do your best not to like check up on them. I know the urge is there, and you know, we all have moments of weakness, but the less you do it, the better, okay? Like no physical wound is necessarily going to heal perfectly either. We still have to go about our daily lives. And, you know, the temptation to scratch and to pick is there, but try to manage it and try to minimize it as much as possible. Because regardless of whether it's like, oh, a temporary break or a long-term break or a forever break, you're not going to be able to come back together, reconnect in a healthy way, in a new way, if you haven't healed the wound first. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why a breakup has to last forever, but you can't like maintain the connection and think that things are going to change in like a dramatic way without a little bit of time apart to like figure yourself out. You know what I mean? Because you're at a point where it's not working. It's so incompatible that you have to break up, that you've reached a breaking point. If you were able to move through it together, move through whatever challenge or obstacle together, that's what you would be doing. But instead you're breaking up. So the fact that you're at this point shows that you need time apart to heal, to recalibrate, rebuild yourselves, and then potentially come back together in the future. And I think in the short term, you can say to yourself, like, you know, we're going to take time apart, and maybe there's potential in the future, maybe not. That's kind of like just a way to ease any feelings of discomfort, especially when like you're still attached to that person. But, you know, in a few weeks or months, you'll probably see a lot more clearly how you're better off not together for the time being. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if not, that's okay. Not everybody in your life is going to be there forever. That's just the reality of being alive. And it's hard when we form really intense attachments to people. So it's going to be okay. No contact rule is important. There are people that I have broken up with or had like periods of intermission from, and we've been able to reconnect as, you know, different versions of ourselves, or at least I know that I'm a different version of myself. Maybe the connection takes on a different nature or is not as close, not as intimate, but it would not have been achievable if we tried to maintain the same level of contact that we had when we were close after the breakup. You know, like if you're talking to somebody every day and then you reach this breaking point where you have to break up, it doesn't make sense for you to keep talking every day while you're trying to heal. No contact rule. A good way to track your no contact rule is to schedule check-ins with yourself. So like in your calendar, you might say, okay, put a date in your calendar. Today is the day that you broke up. Then in 2 weeks' time, put another event, and then maybe in a month, and then maybe in 3 months. So instead of like, I don't know, I feel like for me, if I don't do that, then I can't focus on getting better, or I'm just ruminating all the time. Whereas if I put in a date and I say, okay, get on with your life, and then you can check in, see how you're feeling, it just kind of draws you out of like the wallowing. Because imagine like, you know, imagine like, what kind of visual can I prompt here? Like, so think like in terms of the frequencies that you operate at. There's like your base level equilibrium. When you go down, that's when you're like depressed, when you're angry, when you're in fear, and then going up from neutral is when you're happy, joyful, etc. So when you're in this like intense emotional period in a breakup, you're in the negative, you're below neutral. So it's important to be present, you know, like to feel your feelings, but at the same time, you don't want to get stuck in that negative place. You want to move into the neutral and move up into positive feelings eventually. So in order to do that, I feel like scheduling in 2 weeks, in a month, in 3 months, checking in with yourself helps to kind of pull you out from that negative like frequency, and then focus on how you can get to neutral, because that's like your short-term goal, get to neutral, and then long-term goal, feel joy again. And like your ability to move between these frequencies is like always changing and shifting. It's not like you stay in depression forever. You might have moments of neutrality, you might have moments of joy. Those are really important. But yeah, say like in 2 weeks, okay, I'm going to really reflect. Instead of like ruminating every single day, you need to give yourself space to do the daily things you need to do, schedule in being emo, and then in 2 weeks you can be like, okay, how am I feeling now? How have my thoughts changed? You can like track that, because a lot can change in 2 weeks, in a month, in 3 months, and you don't necessarily realize how much they can until you track it. because we might feel like in the short term, oh my God, I'm never going to stop feeling this way. But your feelings are always changing, but especially when we're in the negative, in the red, it can feel overwhelming. So schedule those check-ins. Next point, get a new hobby / get physical. So I think that a good way to handle overwhelming emotions, especially ones that involve rage, physical exertion helps. It's not like you can fully get rid of your anger just by like punching it out, but I think that it can just help to like release some of it from your body, you know? And when we're depressed, we kind of like don't want to do anything. We don't want to move at all, but physical activity is important for endorphins in the brain, okay? And I, as somebody who did not grow up athletic, who fucking hates exercise, but has since developed and, you know, reformed her relationship with physical activity, I cannot stress enough how important it is to move your body and not just be a potato at all times, as much as we might be tempted to do so. So if you're raging, I think just book some boxing classes. You don't have to become a boxer. You don't have to do them, you know, for a year. Just 3 or 4, sometimes that's all it takes. You just need to imagine your rage being channeled into the bag, let it out, and then move on. You don't have to commit to it, but I think in the short term, it helps a lot. Definitely helped me a lot. And then also balance this with like meditative and like more like flow, like mind-body connection exercises like yoga. I think that helps a lot. And you can do that at home. And then also walking is really great. Just going for a walk, you know, you might have 20 minutes of being emo, get up and just walk around the block. Try not to look at your phone. Try not to get too into like the dopamine cycles that come with social media and the internet. Just take time to yourself. Release the energy, exert the energy out of your body. Shake it out. Shake, 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 shake. Also, dance classes are fun too. Good for endorphins. There's music. There's like a feeling of community because you're in a group of people, and it can just get you out of your head and like back into your body kind of thing. So get physical, and then also get a new hobby. I think this is a very underrated way of dealing with a transition period. Again, you don't have to like fully pursue this hobby and become like a crochet artist if you don't want to, but you might become one. But I'm sure there are things that you wished that you had more time to do, or things that you were always curious about, or things that you put on the back burner amidst this transition period or amidst the breakup, the chaos of the breakup. And pursuing that interest, following that curiosity, I think is a really great way to reconnect with yourself and also develop a skill that's trackable, you know, like seeing how you change and develop over time. You start as a beginner, you move to intermediate to advanced level, and it just, you know, good for your serotonin, and it also helps you to establish like a new sense of self that is different to your previous self. You know, before you're building a new version of yourself, you're evolving, because now you're not just someone you're not like defined by the version of you that went through the breakup. You're a new version of you. Now you have this new hobby that's kind of like building a new part of your identity. And I think with this late stage capitalism, consumerist society that we live in, we focus a lot on superficial things like cutting your hair, getting a new tattoo, getting a new piercing, changing your whole wardrobe. But changing those external things doesn't necessarily like fix these internal things. I think like if you spend a lot of energy like researching new aesthetics and blah blah blah, like that is kind of a hobby in and of itself. But I feel like, you know, something that's like, maybe you get into yoga, you never did yoga before, maybe you get into Pilates, maybe you get into pole dance. That's what I did. I was going through a major transition period in my life, and I got into pole dance, and my whole body's changed. My relationship to my body's changed. I don't remember who I was before I was doing pole dance now. And I'm not an athletic person. Or I never identified myself as an athletic person or someone that would be even capable of doing it, but I'm moving into advanced level now. So there's that. And, you know, maybe it's knitting, drawing, painting, DJing, whatever. Find some kind of hobby. And if you can afford to invest, you know, more time and a little bit of money into it, it will feel more rewarding as well as you develop that skill. And it can also expose you to new people. So you're in new environments. You feel like a new person as well. You can step into a new identity because you're in a new environment. Okay? Get a hobby. I mean, even if you're not going through a major transition period in your life, you can create one just by getting a hobby and getting a new interest. And I think that that process of engaging your mind, your body into something is what helps us to like build integrity, build discipline with ourselves as well. So yeah, I feel like doing classes for any interest that you might have, put something in your diary to schedule, like time for you and your interest, time for you and this community that you're now a part of. And I feel like that's important to just like life in general, but especially moving through these transition periods. Okay, next point. See your friends. If you don't have friends, it's time to make some friends. Please get a hobby. Hobbies are a great way to meet new people because you already know you're going to connect over your mutual interests. It's just a matter of whether your personalities are compatible or not. But yeah, spend time with your friends. And I think it's important to find a balance between leaning on your friends for emotional support and being able to vent to them, and then also allowing your friends and the activities that you usually participate in to get you out of your head and to get you sort of like distracted temporarily and like feeling like a whole person again, trying to heal that hole, distracting you from the gaping void inside of you. So I think there's only so much that our friends can really do in terms of emotional support. And especially as you get older, it's like everybody has a lot of shit going on. The stakes get higher. Everyone has more responsibilities. And I feel like your friends should really be there to help and support and encourage you, not necessarily like hold your hand through every fucked up experience you have, if that makes sense. Like there needs to be a level of personal responsibility and then also like shared responsibility with our friends. It doesn't mean that you aren't honest with your friends about how you're feeling or that your friends don't create a space where you can be honest and be raw with them, but just you don't want to be the friend that's calling your friends at inappropriate times, begging your friends to whatever. I don't know. I haven't really been in any situations that have been dire like that, but I've definitely heard stories of like codependent friends, and especially like people who just kind of don't have friends during their relationships and then lean on their friends in between breakups until they find another partner and the cycle continues. So spend more time with your friends, maybe while you were going through the breakup, maybe in the tail end of the relationship you were neglecting your friendships. So reconnect with them, be honest with them about how you're feeling, what your thought process has been, how much you love and care for them. That is something that would probably come up while you're journaling and like thinking and reflecting. You might realize that you lost a lot of the connections that you had that were important to you, and you kind of allowed them to be deprioritized in order to try to plug in and save your relationship if that's the situation that you were in. But yeah, hang out with your friends, be honest with them about how you're feeling, but then also try to engage in activities that are fun for everyone, you know, not just you venting and them holding and trying to help you process your emotions, but also like activities you guys can do together and like no mention of the ex. A balance between two, you know. I think a healthy friendship allows you to do both. Next point, seek professional support if you need it. There is absolutely no shame in seeing a therapist when we're going through a really overwhelming or traumatic experience. Breakups can be extremely traumatic, even if there hasn't been any like physical violence or anything. I think the way that I grew up understanding trauma was under the assumption that there needed to be like physical harm. But anytime we experience overwhelming emotions that we don't feel like equipped to handle, that can create trauma. So again, our friends can only do so much in helping us process that. They're not professionals. A professional will get you between A to B faster than your friends can. And I think sometimes people think like, oh, if I'm going to see a therapist, then suddenly I have to see a therapist forever. If anything, I think that these transition periods can spark like an opportunity for you to get professional help around a very specific situation that can also give you insight into other parts of yourself that you weren't necessarily aware of before. So I think it can also help to streamline your sessions if you have a very specific thing that you're working on, and then your therapist can kind of like see how that might relate to other areas of your life, how you can then build awareness around these things or these patterns and ensure that you're minimizing their impact or managing them in healthier ways moving forward. So no shame in seeking professional support, especially if you have the privilege of time and access and resources. You don't need to see a therapist forever. If anything, just seeing one to help you through this period so that you can speak honestly with somebody who has an understanding of how to deal with these things, that's going to help you immensely, I think. And I spoke about therapy and my experience with it, I think, in my 2021 reflection. And I might do a separate episode on it so people can visit that when they're curious specifically about therapy and just my experience with it. But I think in my experience, like the way that I have spoken about a transition period or a breakup to a therapist has uncovered like deeply rooted beliefs that I had that were motivating certain types of behavior or allowing for a certain type of perspective and like clouding my judgment or skewing the way that I saw things in a way that was actually detrimental to me. And seeing a professional in that context allowed me to become aware of those things in a way that I wouldn't necessarily have been able to if I was just seeing a therapist when everything was kind of like chill. You know what I mean? The best time to see a therapist is when shit's hit the fan, so that you can know how to manage shit hitting the fan later down the line. When everything's good, you're not really thinking and reflecting as deeply as you would be when the trauma chest has been cut open and you have this overwhelming sense of doom. That's a great time for a professional to help you. So please do not feel like there's any shame in seeking help. You know, like in no other area of our lives do we rationalize not getting a professional to help us with something. And we are the creator of our own reality because we are the center of our own universe. You experience the world through your eyes and it's processed through your brain. So why would you not want a professional to help you with how you manage that? You know, like if I have a problem with my sink and I have a limited understanding of how to fix my sink, I'm not going to keep trying to figure out how to fix it myself if I can ask a plumber who's a professional to come and help me. The same with any other part of my life. So it doesn't hurt to have people with more experience help you figure your brain out. And then I feel like you're less likely to take advantage of that experience when you're putting down money for it. You know, like sometimes I think people can take advantage of their friends or their family as like emotional dumpsters. And that can have a negative impact on your relationships. But like, a therapist is paid to create a space for you to feel safe, to emotionally dump and then help you process it, because that is a skill. And not like your friends and your family don't necessarily have that skill, don't necessarily have the capacity to do that for you. And I think that back to like the way that I think about what's important to me in life is being happy, being joyful, being peaceful where possible, returning to that state, is that I don't want an area in my life that's been poisoned to poison the other areas of it, you know? And sometimes if we're going through a really intense breakup and we're not conscious of how we manage it, we can scattergun that negativity into all other parts of our life without realizing, because we're not taking responsibility for ourselves. So I think, again, like I mentioned, it's important to find the balance between being able to vent to your friends and lean on them in some ways, but then also knowing, like, allowing them to have boundaries around that, and for yourself to have boundaries around that too. It's okay to seek professional support. There is no shame in seeing a therapist, especially when the goal is for you to be happy and for you to be prioritizing your mental health. Anyone that tries to shame you for that is carrying shame around how they manage those things for themselves, and that's actually not your problem. The best thing that you can do is live by example and seek help, do better, process, and come out the other side, living for a living. Next point, rebounds. Okay, the feminine urge to hit up your ex booty call once you're going through a breakup. Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with rebounds. I don't think that breakups are a logical or a clean-cut process most of the time. You know, I'm listing out these things, but it's not necessarily going to be easy for you to integrate them into your life. It doesn't mean it's not worth doing, but, you know, healing is not linear. And rebounds, you know, sometimes they're a little pit stop on the way to your healing. And I think that as long as you're conscious that it is a rebound and you're not over investing in it kind of like solving all your problems, and you're not misleading somebody else just to like get your ego needs met or just to make yourself feel better, you can totally indulge in rebounds if you want. But, you know, be safe, make sure it's consensual, and don't kind of like mindlessly pursue validation from other people. I think when you're feeling kind of like discarded or feeling undesirable, especially in the eyes of someone that you pedestaled or that you really loved, it can be nice to entertain validation from other people, right? And it's your right to, especially after a breakup. But don't go like monkey vining from one relationship into another if your long-term goal is to have a better, healthier experience than the last. And even if your long-term goal is to quote unquote win, you need to think bigger picture, because the person who's like rushing to the next relationship is always the one that's the least over it, you know, like, and a new relationship is different from a rebound. And it's important to distinguish between the two. And even if the temptation is there, I still think it's really important to just take time to yourself. Sometimes like people get to the end of a relationship and they've already clocked out like 2 years before they break up or 6 months before they break up. And I haven't really had that experience personally, but I have had people say like I was already so done with the relationship that I didn't need any more time to myself. I don't know how true that is. You know, a lot of people say things. I think in terms of like building a new identity, it's hard to do when you're still in the relationship. Although some people like literally are in a relationship and live like roommates and they have their own separate lives anyway by the time they break up. So it kind of doesn't make a difference. But yeah, like for me, I can only tolerate like dissatisfaction from an external source for like 3 months until I'm like, okay, something has to change. Like I've said before, there's a difference between discomfort that comes at your own expense and discomfort that's in service of your personal growth. I can undergo a lot of discomfort when it comes to something that's important to me. I think about the amount of shit that I went through when I first started DJing. It was years of being harassed in the club, not being taken seriously. And even still, there are lots of instances where I'm not being respected according to the amount of experience that I've had. And it's frustrating, but it happens to everybody, I think. But that's discomfort that I'm willing to endure because I love music and I love DJing. So that's like years of discomfort. But, at a level of, but it's discomfort that's in service of my growth. I've been able to experience so many amazing things through music and DJing. It's worth it. And I've learned so much from those negative experiences too, that I'm stronger for it. And all those people that are haters, I don't know what they're doing and nobody cares either. And the same way for like doing this podcast, like there's so many things that I had to learn in order to do this. I literally just do it as a hobby and I'm not making any money off it, but it's fun and I enjoy it. And I think that it took me like a year maybe until I felt more confident in like releasing episodes and having like a more solid kind of audience, and it's still very much in its infancy. But this kind of discomfort is different to discomfort that's like me needing my circumstances to change, needing a relationship with someone to change, or needing a work situation to change, and not being able to actually control it, not being able to influence it in a way that doesn't end with me saying, I just have to leave. This kind of discomfort that comes with breakups and transitions is there to teach you something about yourself, there to catalyze growth. It's like, I don't know, water on the seed or the seedling that is your life, the next chapter of your life that's waiting to grow. The most interesting trees are the ones that have endured many different seasons, not the ones that are farmed and grown in like perfect conditions, I think. Is that a good analogy? I'm not really sure. But yeah, rebounds. Important to just like try to be as intentional as you can with them, even though that sounds kind of crazy. But be clear on what it is you're getting out of it, what you're trying to get out of it, and realistic as well. You don't want this like transference thing to happen where you're kind of like projecting your unprocessed feelings or unprocessed desires onto another person and trying to like role play or live out something that you didn't feel you were able to do with your ex. Sometimes you just need to rationalize and dead those feelings and those thoughts. Have a funeral for them. Have a funeral for the future that you thought you were going to have with this person. I think it's natural for us to write a story, get ahead of ourselves in terms of what would have been possible in a certain situation or in a certain relationship. But when you're journaling, being able to write all those things out, see them on paper and accept that maybe they're not going to happen right now. Maybe they're not going to happen with this person. But it doesn't mean that you're never going to be happy again and you can't actually have a healthy relationship. You can't actually find a situation that's more suitable and compatible with where you're at now and the direction that you're going. On the topic of rebounds as well, semi-related but not, is the post-breakup thirst trap, the feminine urge to try and get your ex to see what they're missing out on, subtly, not so subtly announce to the world that you're back on the market. I think that, we've had social media for long enough now that all of these sorts of patterns we've started to collectively pick up on. Women always know when someone's just broken up with their partner because you can tell the way that their content shifts in subject matter. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that if you want to think about breakups in terms of winners and losers, then give yourself like a 1 to 3 month probation period before you start posting thirst traps. It doesn't mean you can't like subtly hint to a breakup if there's people that you're trying to signal to, but I think that this is related but unrelated, like the way that we treat our bodies, especially as women. I think it can be a really slippery slope, and we didn't ask to have our bodies commodified in this way, but we have to live with the reality that they are. And I think instead of living in a way where you try to fight back against the commodification of your body by treating it as if it's not a commodity and giving people free access, that's not as empowering as we think it is, or I personally don't find that empowering. I actually think that there is power in restraint and your ability to sort of consciously to intentionally decide how you present yourself and who has access to you is empowering. And it's not the easy way by any means. I mean, we all know how much money you can make from presenting yourself a certain way online, how much attention you can get from presenting yourself a certain way. And I don't judge anyone for the choices that they make, but I do think that there aren't enough conversations around the way that your body should be treated like a temple. At the end of the day, it's like the thing that carries you through this life. And more, we are not allowed to own anything. Our ability to own anything is being limited and restricted. And I don't think that and I personally don't want to be giving up my body just willy-nilly for a buck or for an ego stroke. So I think try and find a balance between doing things that are going to help you move through these periods, but also being mindful of when you might be acting from a place of like ego needs or ego deficit that you might regret later down the line. You know, I don't think hooking up with your ex's friends is as much of a flex as people might think it is. I mean, if you really do think that's empowering, by all means, but I do think that it's just going to feel good short term. That is very much an ego stroke move, and that's temporary. You know, the needs of the ego can never be met. It's like a black hole. So actually being able to starve out your own ego is a good skill to practice. And also when you focus on being unbothered, presenting as unbothered, that will starve out your ex's ego. You know, success is the best revenge for a reason. And I think the fact that you don't show weakness when you're feeling the weakest, that is a strength in and of itself. So yeah, you can post thirst traps if you want, but my personal philosophy is to limit the access that people have to your body and your vulnerabilities in public, and unless they're paying, basically. But I think, you know, you can definitely flirt or do things in a way that suggests that you're thinking about it or that you might, without actually having to do it. You know, I really feel like I think in this day and age, there are more downsides to casual sex and hookups than upsides. I'm not saying that you're a bad person if you enjoy casual sex or you pursue casual sex. Like, I'm just not in that place right now, but I might be later down the line. But yeah, we've kind of like had a long enough period of people being able to explore it, people trying to find ways to romanticize it or think that it's like some kind of solution. But I think that, you know, people are people and we want deep connection with ourselves and with other people. And casual sex is like this weird attempt to like experience intimacy without any deep connection, and I don't think that it's a sustainable thing long term. But that's a little aside that I just wanted to mention. So yeah. Yeah, so the last point is just that even when you're betrayed, it's still our responsibility to figure out what we can learn. I saw this quote today that was like, you can fail 100 times, but a committed man will learn 100 lessons or something. You know, like reminding yourself that there's so much to learn in these times of distress. It doesn't mean that our urge or desire to avoid them goes away, but we can better manage them. You know, like I said at the beginning, I don't want to go through another breakup, but I have to accept that I probably will. Whether it's one that's permanent, whether it's, you know, just a challenging time. That's what keeps life interesting. And I think the more we can lean into it, the sooner we can move through them and the more appreciation we can have. Because when you've taken responsibility yourself and moved through it, you can really see and appreciate the progress that you've made and you feel that you've earned it and you're literally like a new version of yourself. And you're stronger for it. Like, it's because you're not relying on some external source to make you feel better about something. You're actually like processing your feelings, developing awareness of your thoughts, going out there, putting yourself out there, having new hobbies, building new skills. You will make it through to the other side. You know, anytime I feel overwhelmed in some sort of situation now, I think about the introduction to the I Ching, which is like this spiritual Chinese book on Taoism. I haven't even read through the whole thing, but I read through the introduction and I was already like, my whole life has changed just from reading this. But the guy that translated it, the version that I have, Alfred Huang, he talks about how he was in like a communist China labor camp during the Cultural Revolution or something for like 9 years. 9 years. That's longer than my law degree, which already felt like fucking forever. He was in a labor camp for 9 years. Like, how many of us can relate to the conditions of a labor camp, or even imagine what that would be like for even a day, let alone 9 years? And because of the study that he'd done on Taoism, he would monitor the news, and every day it would get worse. But every day that it got worse, he remembered that it has to get worse before it gets better, and that the light at the end of the tunnel would be coming as it was getting worse, or something, if that makes sense. You know, like, because of the way that the universe is because of the way that we need to experience things in polarities, or in this like this light and dark, yin and yang, if you will, you can't appreciate one without the other. And he went on to translate one of the most iconic ancient texts in China into English and have an amazing career and a fulfilling life. And he had spent 9 years of his life in a fucking labor camp. Like, are you serious? So if he can come out of that, and he is a person, you know, just like the rest of us, find ways to contextualize the pain and the struggle that you're currently in, and remind yourself that it gets worse before it gets better. And we're not really always taught how to think of life that way, especially now, because we're given so many opportunities to distract ourselves in ways that are not intentional. You know, like, I encourage distraction in terms of seeking hobbies, hanging out with your friends, but not just mindless distraction in terms of like wallowing in your pain for days, months on end, just scrolling through social media looking for temporary dopamine hits. You don't want that. You need to balance serotonin, balance your dopamine, and remember that it's always darkest before the dawn. And sometimes you just need enough time to pass to get to a point where you're just over it, you know? And we wish we could be over it in a day. We wish we could be over it in an hour even. But yeah, it's like this push and pull. Your brain goes one way, but you need to pull yourself back into the present moment. Your desire to find a shortcut, to will something to be over, needs to be balanced with realistic, long-term vision. Okay, your life doesn't end here. That's all I had for today. Quite a long episode, I think. I hope that some of these things were helpful. If you happen to be going through a major transition in your life or a breakup, I am very sorry to hear. But I am also excited for you, because I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, that's so embarrassing that you're going through a breakup or that your life is changing. That's so exciting. Every shitty period in my life has been followed by an amazing, exciting period. And I feel like these sorts of things that I mentioned in this episode have helped me to appreciate those experiences, positive and negative, and move through them like in a more efficient way, kind of, or just with more intention, and sort of streamline the process a little bit. You know, it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be instant. And it's not necessarily going to be clean cut either. Healing is not linear. Life is just messy in general. Everything's changing. But our ability to return to ourselves, have an awareness of what we're doing, where we're going, is what helps us to grow and change with intention, and not just be like slapped around by life. So yeah, oh my God, I'm literally losing my voice. You know, what doesn't kill you can make you stronger, but only if you're determined for it to be the case. We're going to get beaten down in life, okay? Life is not fair. We need to accept that life is not fair, so we need to figure out a way to navigate and learn and grow. It's just like how life is, I guess. It's not fair, and we can get angry about how it's not fair, but being angry about it doesn't suddenly make it fair either. You know, sometimes you kind of have to generate your own justice, your own revenge. Success is the best revenge. And being unbothered is the way to maintaining your dignity, in my opinion. But you know, everybody is going to make their own decisions. But I encourage you to choose yourself. And yeah, thank you for listening. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, SoundCloud and Spotify for music. And yeah, love hearing from people. So keep sending in your thoughts and feelings. I really appreciate it. Keeps me motivated. And stay hydrated. Tell your friends and family that you love them. And I'll speak to you soon. Go be a better person. Bye.